what happens is that everything you type in that computer, no matter how sophisticated it is, it's translated to numbers. How many numbers does a computer read at a time? Well, maybe I should rephrase that. You're going to say? One number. And the computer only understands 2 digits, right? What are they? 0 and 1. They're not as smart as we think they are. When you type into this computer, everything is translated into binary code. It's called binary because there are 2 characters, binary, 1 and 0. So you may see a long string of zeros and ones, and every word that you type in there, the computer says, okay, puts it to a very, very sophisticated network system. And we're going to see. I'm going to show you before I'm finished that God has a computer system, and it's actually called a net. The concept of internet was not invented in Bill Gates' mind, nor was it invented by the American government, as we, But what I'm going to show you, after I get finished with this Old Testament description of DNA, I'm going to show you an amazing parallel in John chapter 21 about Simon Peter and Simon Peter's net. Or if I could say Simon Peter's internet. Now remember what I'm telling you now is that everything that we type into a computer, for whatever program it is, even these artistic programs to create art, the computer takes images, even if it's a scanned image, and it analyzes it down to a series of zeros and ones. That's all the computer knows is 0 and 1. Simon Peter's net takes human beings from all stripes, every races and colors, and by the time Jesus got finished filling Simon Peter's net with fishes, Simon had exactly 153 fish. Now, I'm not going to go into that right now. We're going to save that for last. It's going to be really awesome. And I started to notice, okay, there's obviously something that God wants us to understand about this. These numbers don't just, it's not just by accident that they coincide like this. Okay, so we have the real Adam and Eve, our DNA, and the cell. Now, the interesting thing about this is that in Genesis chapter 2, God separates and differentiates from the man Adam and the woman Eve by calling them the man and the woman. Because in truth, if you look up the word Adam in your Hebrew concordance, it'll say mankind. It doesn't speak about just one particular man. It also has connotations which represent the earth. One of its meanings are ruddy or red. And basically Adam is a broad term. It doesn't necessarily represent one specific individual. When God wants to represent the individual, he talks about the man. When he wants to talk about the woman, he talks about the woman. But God, in his clever mind, has coded DNA to code for 19, just like Adam, and the Eve is the cell. So we're going to go on to the next page, and we're going to talk about the building blocks of cells. And this is going to be pretty fascinating. Have any of you ever wondered why God went through such great pains in the Bible to specifically note which person was born after that person and how long they lived? How many of you ever asked that question, why? Do you think that God didn't have anything else to do with his time, so he just had Noah, or he just had Moses sit down and write down long generational patterns? If you were to look at your family tree, from now all the way back into Adam, it would be like reading a very sophisticated computer code. In that code would have to have every instruction of every cell in your body. And all that was written inside the original DNA of Adam. But cells themselves are composed of proteins. Proteins themselves are the building blocks of cells. Now, the building blocks for proteins are amino acids. And proteins composed of it just so happens that there are 20 known amino acids. Now, not only did I find that the Bible defines Adam and Eve, it also goes on to show the shape and the structure of the 20 amino acids. Now, if we go to Genesis chapter 10, is this pretty interesting so far? Actually, the one I'm looking for here is in Genesis chapter 11. In Genesis chapter 11, we have a copy of the genealogy of those that lived after the Tower of Babel. And starting at verse 10, it says here in Genesis chapter 11, verse 10, it says, "These are the generations." Now that word generations is, again, gene rations. Because the gene contains, I'll write this down on the board. The gene contains the information for every human being, for every your cell, your skin color, eye color, body weight, likes and dislikes. And notice that the Bible there gives a record of the gene rations. So now we understand that the word generation really means a gene ration. It's a very sophisticated, detailed, if you will, computer program that shows the root structure of the entire human race. Now, why is the genealogy of the line of Shem important? Because after the flood, the godly line, the line that God was going to deal with, the lineage that brought forth Abraham was the line of Shem. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And the genealogy we're reading here in Genesis chapter 11 is the lineage of Shem. So, we point out here in verse 10. These are the gene rations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old and begat Arphaxad 2 years after the flood. And Shem lived after he begat Arphaxad 500 years and begat sons and daughters. And Arphaxad lived 35 years after he begat and begat Selah. And Arphaxad lived after he begat Selah 403 years and begat sons and daughters. Selah lived 30 years and begat Eber. From Eber, we go on down to verse 16. We have Peleg. From Peleg, in verse 18, we have Reu. Going down to verse 20, we have Sarah. Down to verse 22, we have Nahor. From Nahor, we have Terah. And from Terah, down in verse 26, interestingly enough, we have Abram. Okay. So now, Abram is the 10th generation from the flood. Okay. So from the flood to Abram, we have 10 generations. Now, let me just write this down. I'm going to write it like this. From flood to Abram. I'll just put Abraham. 10 generations. Now, over on this side, from Adam until Noah, until the flood, we have another 10 generations. To the flood, another 10 generations. So, of course, that gives us 20 generations. Now, I just thought that was interesting because we have 20 amino acids, and every protein is based upon some 20 amino acids. Now, why is this important? Because we all know that heredity, the science of heredity, basically means that, you know, the parents are going to pass upon their characteristics. They're going to pass upon their personality. They're going to pass upon their physical structure.